listening to the Today's Mama podcast with your host, Rachael Hersher.
Welcome to our big health and fitness episode. Now, while we don't pretend to be fitness professionals, we do promise to entertain. We hope. We had so much to say that we split this interview series into two parts. We're talking about some of our health and fitness basics. We're sharing what we've learned over the years from trial and error, traditional medicine, and yes, voodoo doctors too. Be sure to catch both episodes where I break it all down with my bestie, Erin. We're going to uncover that 12-pack someday. Maybe. Okay, we are coming up on good weather, getting ready for spring and summer. I'm trying to shake off what I'm calling hibernation syndrome. It's that thing where I thought I was going to stay really fit all winter, and then I eat all the things, and then the sun comes out, and I don't know where I am anymore, and there's still a little bit of chocolate on my face. So that's Erin that you hear giggling, because she knows what I'm talking about.
I do.
She's been there.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're back for another Erin and Rachael episode. Erin has become a nerd about all this stuff, just like me, even though we fall down sometimes. Okay, we fall down. Erin, we've been nerds for a long time, so let's let people into our world. Are you ready?
I'm ready to let people peek behind the curtain. I hope they like what they see. They might flee in horror.
Yeah, I'm about to unveil the Lulu leggings, the Lululemons.
Oh, geez.
Whatever I call them.
We disagree.
Okay, so first of all, I got to lead with this, though. There's no judgment here. Like, I'm still trying to uncover that 12-pack. It's underneath all that stuff somewhere. But the biggest thing is we've both had some health stuff and found out that we like feeling good as opposed to feeling bad.
Yes.
And so it's really about that. We're not talking about, like, sculpting, getting swole, finding your triceps.
Getting swole. If you're looking for the podcast to help you get shredded, you have reached the incorrect destination. Turn back.
Yeah, I mean, just delete this episode and keep moving. I bet The Rock has something really good out there on this somewhere.
Yes.
But you might find something here you've been looking for or that you never knew about. We might inspire you with a small bit of a vitamin. You never know.
Yeah.
So here's the next disclaimer. We are not doctors. If you told me to go out in the desert and drink like a tincture by the light of the moon, I might do it. I'd try to talk Erin into going with me. Like right now I'm trying to talk my friends into going and hanging out in a salt cave. I mean, that's me. So you have been warned. Yeah. You've got to do your own homework.
Absolutely. This is all about Rachael and I having tweaked the dials on our own personal health and wellness for the last many years.
Yes. I mean, Erin, have I ever led you down a bad path?
No. In fact, you have led me down so many wonderful paths that now at this point, how I've tried to adjust is that I no longer make you work on me for 18 months before I do the thing. Now I just do the thing.
Okay, so this is a good point. Just do what I say.
Yeah. That's really where I'm at in my life. Like, I just do what Rachael says.
But if you're in the general public, ask your doctor too, because
right.
I'm not a doctor. Mm-mm. And Erin's not a doctor.
Nope, not at all.
But even I went on a walk with our amigo Bree yesterday, and we were discussing how we went to the oxygen bar for fun. And then we order up all these random different drinks made of things we don't understand.
Yeah, I skipped that outing, thankfully.
Healthy things.
Oh, yeah.
Healthy things, apparently. Some of them taste like dirt, but you know what? There's some winners in there.
I eagerly await your results of the oxygen bar recommendations.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we're going to start with food on that note. We're going to talk about the food we eat and why that's a big deal. Food is probably the biggest deal for me. So just a little bit of quick background. Over the years, I've started to have some autoimmune issues, mysterious, roving symptoms, things like that. And the thing that I have found helps me the most is having a really clean diet, which sometimes feels like a big bummer, right? But once you hop on that train, it helps a lot of things. So I don't know, Erin, what role does food play for you?
Food is probably, if you would have asked me a year ago, food was my number one factor. The disclaimer I put on that is that what changed in the last year for me is I had to have part of my thyroid removed. And so now that I have finally worked with a doctor to get my thyroid meds in the right spot. That's number one. But previous to having those thyroid issues, nutrition became the primary way that I was able to manage the issues that I was having. I also have some autoimmune issues. I have Hashimoto's, and I had some pretty gnarly digestive issues that come along with feeling anxious and having some of those things. And I discovered through doing Whole30 that the food that I was eating was the single biggest influence on my mood and mental clarity that I could do. And that was kind of mind-blowing for me. Food stopped becoming I shouldn't eat this because I won't, ever get those rock hard abs, or I shouldn't eat this because it's, treats are air quotes bad. The thought process has become, do I have time to be unfocused and have brain fog and potentially be moody or overly emotional? That becomes some of how I make decisions about some of my more indulgent food choices that go outside of that spectrum of where you and I consider to be kind of our clean eating modality.
Yeah. So food for me has nothing to do with calories. I've never looked at the number of calories. Somebody brought it up the other day and I started laughing. I'm like, is it 1987? Are we counting calories? I don't care how much fat is in a thing. I'm not on keto, but I'm not looking at my food that way as much as I'm thinking about, is this good for me? And how does my body react to it? My own personal body. And we may have, we may all react differently to different things. Like I know sugar is just a little demon for me, right? So there was a point when I took an entire year off sugar and anything white for that matter. It was sugar, it was milk, anything processed. And that made a huge difference. That was hard. I mean, I
remember that when you did that.
Yeah. And when I decided to do that, I was coming off, I had gone to the fridge one morning. My husband had made some really good frosting. And it was in a squeeze bag. And I was literally in there taking hits off the squeeze bag, just straight into my mouth for breakfast. And then my kids walked in and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I have a problem.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would eat cake for breakfast, right? And I felt like junk and I knew I just needed to get sugar out of my life.
To help listeners understand that this is not two hippie nerds that have just always, because I've met those people. I know those people who have always been able to maybe they don't have a sweet tooth, or maybe they've just always had this super healthy perspective. Like Rachel and I are not those people. Rachel and I are the people that would pound through half a dozen donuts if we could every single morning. Like we would eat hits of frosting, we would eat chocolate chips at our desk. Like we've done all the most ridiculous things nutritionally, and that's why we eventually had to grow up and land here and use the metric of, how does this food make me feel?
Yes.
Because I'm in the same boat with you. We don't count calories. I don't care how much fat is in things. In fact, I actually have realized fat is really important in terms of feeling full and being satisfied and not having sugar cravings and not missing gluten and some of those things.
Yes. I made a deodorant comment. If you don't wear deodorant, it's cool. I get that too. I've explored the world of, the rock or whatever that thing is. The crystal. Yeah, they just
rub the crystal underneath.
They just didn't work out for me.
No, I sweat, man. I need something sturdy that's built for a trucker.
For an Italian. Built for an Italian. So let's talk about what Whole30 is. To me, it's basically eliminating any food in your diet that has anything to do with inflammation, which basically means you're going to eat fruits and vegetables, meat, seeds and nuts, and I think that's all.
Pretty much.
What I miss.
I mean, fat. I think they considered fat to be
healthy fats.
Yes.
So there's no grains of any sort.
Mm-mm.
What that does is when you're done with that Whole30 and you start reintroducing those things into your life, you start to realize what really gave you problems, right? So I had already been tested for, my mom has celiac, so I'd been tested for gluten issues, right? And I had an intolerance. So I knew that about myself. But by the time I got done with the Whole30 and I started bringing other things into my diet, I realized corn was a massive issue for me. It made me feel like garbage. So I was able to shift at the end of my Whole30 and say, okay, you know what? I know rice and quinoa work great for me. Something else that wasn't good for me was oats. Made me feel like junk,
Mm-hmm.
So it just helped me realize, all right, now that I've done the Whole30 and now I've reintroduced all the foods back, I know I mostly need to eat Whole30 with a couple added things.
Yeah. Whole30 was really helpful for me. Again, this Whole30 was an example of something Rachel did and then harassed me for probably 1.5 to 2 years before I finally gave it a whirl myself a few years ago. And I had a lot of similar discoveries, because I remember telling Rachel, I don't have a problem with gluten. I have no problem with dairy. Like, yeah, sugar's bad because it makes me chubby or whatever, and I don't like that. But
And she'd always be like, LOL, that's so sad for you guys. I eat what I want.
yeah, I did. And after I did Whole30 and reintroduced things, like I realized dairy absolutely wrecks me from a digestive standpoint. Peanuts wreck me.
Mm-hmm.
Gluten was causing my entire body to feel miserable. I had so much just body aches and pains. I had inflammation. I had brain fog. And then I had a really sore kind of knife in the belly stomach ache. Sugar makes me really anxious and really emotional and really teary. And so to take those things out and to all of a sudden feel reset was really interesting. But for me, what Whole30 helped me identify was some of my food patterns that were really interesting, because everyone sort of agrees that, like, yeah, when you're sad, you have a cookie or a brownie. Like, we kind of agree that that's a coping mechanism that especially women use.
Eating our feelings.
Totally.
We think we should eat our feelings.
And I always knew that. I knew that that was a thing for me. I knew that if I call it my sad brownie. Like, if I was going to be sad, I was going to like want to go to the bakery and get a cookie or a donut or a brownie. But what Whole30 also made me realize is that I also wanted treats and yummy indulgent food when I was happy too. And that was kind of a big light bulb for me, because I realized, oh my gosh, it's not like I've also established this pattern of, we had a great day, let's go get milkshakes, or it's Friday and we made it through the week, let's go get our favorite takeout. And using Whole30 to break those habits was really interesting for me, because that ended up being the harder thing. The harder thing for me ended up saying, like, oh shoot, how do I establish new patterns for, when it is Friday and you sort of want to pat the week on the bum and send it packing with like nachos, shifting that habit so that I wasn't using food as a Band-Aid for my sadness or as a celebration. Because if you think about it, I'm a pretty peppy person. I could always find a reason to celebrate with a donut. So,
well, what I found as I got through the end of my first Whole30 is I very much started to look at food as fuel. And I know I'd heard people say that before and I'd like roll my eyes, but I did. Now I of course, super enjoy food. And when I'm not doing a Whole30, right, I have a new normal, a new normal in terms of what I consider a treat. And I think maybe that's what Whole30 did for me as well, is it made a new normal. Face it, you eat the same things every day, every week. You do. We all kind of have like a rhythm that we're in. And it's switching some of those things out and getting in a new rhythm. And then the occasional extra foods that come with that. And so it just cleaned up my day to day. And I actually, speaking of coming out of my winter hibernation where all my intentions were really good and pure, but the winter didn't play out quite that well for me. I spent a lot of time in front of my computer and saying yes to a lot of things that made me feel like crap. And so I started a Whole30 this week.
Oh, look at you.
I am on day 3. Yes.
Awesome. Well done. How are you feeling?
Good. And you know what? Here's the thing. Doing your second or third or fourth Whole30, whatever, actually, it's not hard to get in the initial rhythm. The initial part, which feels so hard the first time you're making those changes, that part's super easy. It's staying there for 30 full days and not just being like, oh, well, I know that this works for me, so I'm just going to eat it. Or, you know what, 2 weeks was enough. I'm just going to bail out of it. And sometimes that's it. Sometimes I just need to hit the reset button and maybe have a week of Whole30. It's my whole 7, and that's great. But I need a solid Whole30 right now.
But you know what? One of the things you mentioned, doing something like a Whole7 or a Whole14, those are really handy things post holidays, after a vacation, maybe it's been a big birthday fiesta, for a kid or for you or whatever. Those are really handy, because what I've learned after, no question, there's value in doing that whole 30 days. And if you're in the mode where you've never done a Whole30, we are in no way suggesting, oh, just try 7 days. Like there's so much important learning that you get when you do that first Whole30. But since we've had a few of those under our belt now, I'm always amazed how quickly I can feel so much better by just going back to the Whole30 protocol for like even 7 days. So after my kids and I go to Michigan every summer, and up in Michigan is one of my most favorite pizza places in the entire world. I eat it. Like there's a lot of reasons. Like dairy is really hard for me. I'm legitimately not supposed to eat gluten for medical reasons. I'm not going to pass out and die from gluten or anything like that, but I eat that pizza every summer because I love it. And I love their tradition of it. And so it's worth it to me. But when I come back, I feel a little bit wrecked. And so coming home and being able to do something for 7 days, I'm amazed that on day 3 or 4, I already feel so much better. And so it's a really good tool for getting back into the swing of things, because the thing that always, the habit I always had before Whole30, and even sometimes if it is the holidays and you're rolling from it, let's be honest, it's tough in a household, especially with little kids. Halloween kicks off a pretty steady fiesta of sugar. You've got Halloween, and then you've got Thanksgiving and baking and all those traditions. And then you've got Christmas. And there's almost a point where you think, well, I already feel like garbage. Why not just have the next sugar cookie? Even though, you shouldn't, you already feel like trash. But when you do a couple of these Whole30s and you realize I'm literally 48 hours away from feeling a million times better. And when I say feel, I'm not talking about appearance. Yeah. I'm not talking about any sort of surface level. I'm talking about the feeling in your body, how well you're sleeping, how much better your digestion feels, like how much better your brain and focus and mood feel once you start to take those things out of your system that kind of wreck you.
And how fast your skin clears up.
Oh yeah.
Your skin clears up really fast.
Yeah. If you want to know,
at least for me,
if I've been doing the things I'm supposed to be doing nutritionally, just look at my face. That will tell you right away, have I been eating dairy? Have I been eating sugar? Because my skin just absolutely loses its mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell the way just inflammation when I wake up in the morning. Like my face isn't as puffy, my body's not as sore, my body actually gets to rest at night instead of deal with all the crap that I put in it the preceding day.
When you're able to figure out the things that nutritionally are really disrupting your system, your personal system, you will find that is the biggest measuring stick that I have found that was really eye-opening, was because all of a sudden you wake up in the morning and you just sort of wake up and get out of bed, and you don't have this feeling of not wanting to get out of bed or having a lot of aches and pains or feeling kind of miserable or groggy. You just wake up and start your day and off you go. And that's one of my biggest, if I wake up in the morning and I feel really crummy and I have maybe a low backache, or I feel disrupted in my digestion, or I feel foggy, or I feel overly sleepy, that's when in my brain, I go back and I think, oh, what did I eat yesterday? Oh, right. A giant loaf of French bread because I couldn't help myself. So that's that.
I couldn't help myself. And this is life. This is life. Like you can do anything for 30 days, I believe. And then, we will make mistakes, but the whole point is just to be like, yeah, note to self, I ate the whole thing of French bread. I'm not going to do that next time, or I know how to fix it. To me, a Whole30 is just getting to know your body a whole lot better so you can make better choices. But the other part is that you don't have to hate yourself for saying yes to, at Easter time, I'm going to say yes to the Reese's eggs, dude. Sure. There's not a better creation on the face of the earth than that peanut butter to chocolate ratio of a Reese's egg.
Well, and you've had Melissa Hartwig, the founder of the Whole30, on the podcast before. And one of the things that I love that she talks about a lot on her Instagram stories is it worth it? This idea of what Whole30 gives anyone the opportunity to do is decide what's worth it to them. I can look at a Nelson's frozen custard concrete, one of those big, I don't know if they have those in other places, but it's frozen custard, and it's kind of like a milkshake, and it's yummy.
Yeah.
And I know that is going to destroy me by the time I'm halfway through the cup. So I know it going into it. And sometimes, a couple times a year, I just really want it. And I know what I'm getting into, but sometimes it's worth it to me. And I can make those decisions based on, what do I have going on in my life? I'm not going to go eat something that's going to make me feel terrible if I know that I've got to go to hot yoga the next morning. That's the equation that's not going to work out. So Whole30 giving you an opportunity to truly know your body and know what's going to work for you and be worth it for you is so mind-blowing.
There's a lot of stuff out there that's just not worth it. I get to the end and I feel like crap.
Right.
And that helps you probably get better self-control over time, is that realization of what's really worth it. Are my grandmother's rolls at Christmas time worth it? Yes, every single time.
Yep.
That will absolutely be worth it for me. But you know what? There's candy I just will not waste my time on.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it. I'll wait for my Easter egg,
Yep. Gotta wait for the Reese's egg, the pinnacle.
Yeah. I'm not going to waste my time on a normal Reese's cup when I know there's an egg on the horizon.
What a nerd.
I know. Okay. So we've had Melissa on the podcast, so I'll put a link to that episode in the show notes. Today'smama.com is also packed with a ton of Whole30 content. So we've actually had whole mamas who are part of Whole30 create content over on our site. And then we've also just wrapped up doing a big series of recipes that we love on Whole30. Erin, what's coming down the pipe?
Whole30, figuring out what to have at breakfast is really challenging for a lot of people that start Whole30, because if you think about it, breakfast tends to be some sort of sweet grain. It's cereal, it's a donut, it's an English muffin, it's toast, it's oatmeal, So figuring out what to have during breakfast or as a breakfast meal is really hard for people. And one of the things that I have been eating for breakfast almost, my goodness, I probably eat it 4 or 5 days a week and have for the past 3 years, I think, is sweet potato hash. So, and I've made it for Rachel. I've made it for a ton of people that don't even eat Whole30. Like my mom and dad just love it. It's a sweet potato hash, and you can eat it with, I always eat it with fresh spinach and scrambled eggs. And it's this wonderful, delicious, well-balanced, crispy, just excellent meal. And we put that up on Today's Mama. We also have bacon, apple, and chicken salad that's Whole30 approved. That it's another one of these concoctions I came up with when I did my first Whole30 that I love so, so much. It's so easy. And this is another one of those that I've force fed to a lot of people to try to convince them to go on Whole30. And I get texts pretty regularly. Hey, can you send me that recipe again? Because it's really yummy and delicious. It has bacon and chicken and apples and grapes and almonds in it. And it is so yummy. We also have egg roll in a bowl. We have Whole30 barbecue sauce and Whole30 ranch dressing. Now, a few years ago when you and I were doing our first Whole30s, you could not find any sort of Whole30 compliant sauces on store shelves. It was kind of the rough part of doing Whole30 back in the old days. But now there are a lot of products on store shelves, but it's also really great and more economical to make some of your own, because then you can also tweak them to make them taste exactly the way you want and save some money. So we've got those. And then we also just published our Whole30 Walmart grocery list. Sometimes people feel like you're going to do Whole30, you have to only go to the big expensive health food stores and plunk down $6 for something like a salad dressing. There's a lot of really great Whole30 compliant ingredients and foods at Walmart, including the Whole30 approved frozen meals, which you've tried. I think did you?
Yes.
You tried those. Did you love them?
So first of all, I did a full review on the site. Whole30 did not pay us, contact us, any of that. I did that of my own free will and choice. I've tried every frozen meal. I order all of them regularly on my pickup order. I think it is the most brilliant partnership that Whole30 created. I should have stock in their company. Honestly, it's so affordable. They're all less than $5. Part of the problem with Whole30 is if you are not prepared, when you run into a brick wall, sometimes when you are just like, dude, I am so hungry, I'm going to eat my arm and I am not going to chop a thing, So those Whole30 meals are incredible. They taste good. My kids will eat them. You're not going to go buy 90 of these and eat 3 a day for your Whole30, right? You're still going to go eat your real food. These are the things you're going to use when you're in a bind or you need a quick lunch or whatever it is. I seriously love them and buy them on the regular.
Yeah, I can't wait to try them. I think they'd be a great solution for especially a quick lunch. When you do Whole30, one of the challenges is trying to feed a family as well. No question that spouses and children can benefit from this type of really healthy eating, but that's tough. I can admit that that's really tough, and I tweak the dials on some of the recipes to still feed my kids. Maybe they're going to have burritos, and I'm just going to have ground beef and sometimes that sweet potato hash that I mentioned that I use for breakfast. But also sometimes they really want chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, and they're going to have that. And I could pull out a Whole30 freezer meal, and everyone is still getting what they need on a quick weeknight. And that's an awesome, awesome tool for that.
Yeah. And you know what? I tend to think, especially just because I have had to be gluten-free for a number of years, I think of our meals in pieces. So a lot of what we eat is something you would assemble, right? So if we do tacos, I know that I'm just going to be super heavy on the lettuce and all the fresh ingredients over there. And my kids can have, taco shells or the tortillas and throw the cheese and sour cream on. And that's great. It's all in pieces, whether it's, fajitas, spaghetti. I have my zoodle noodles and my kids will still eat those. Yeah. So I'm not afraid to just be like, yeah, your meal is pretty much Whole30. Go grab, a roll to go with it or throw some cheese at it if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
I realized that like I was not maybe incorporating enough grains into the meals for my kids because they would go to my parents' house and my parents would serve dinner rolls and my kids would eat like 4. And my mom and dad looked at me like, what is the matter with these? What is going on at your house?
They're like, we're low carb. We don't know what to do.
We haven't seen bread in 6 weeks. That's not true. Give me some credit.
Well, okay. So to find all that Whole30 stuff, we'll have links in the show notes. You can search Whole30 on todaysmama.com. You know, we've got tons of stuff there.
You're listening to the Today's Mama podcast with your host, Rachael Hersher. We'll be back right after this.
For breakfast, you ate one stale goldfish you found in the car seat. Your hair is still sticky from last night's applesauce hands. You have to pick up dry cleaning, go to the store, unclog Mr. Fuzzy from the toilet, and then get the kids from school. You deserve something easy. Now you can automatically create 60-page photo books straight from your phone's camera roll and social media for just $10 with free shipping. Time flies. Hang on to every weird, wild moment with Chatbooks.
And now back to the Today's Mama podcast with your host, Rachael Hersher.
So next up, we are going to talk about vitamins, the things we take every day. And get ready for this one. So we have a doctor. Now, this is a guy that I tried to get you to see forever, right? This is another one of those things where Rachael tells you what to do and you put it off for years. And then you're like head hung down.
Yep.
Like that dog on the movie Up who feels bad. And you're like, sorry, I will go do the thing. Right? Like,
dang. You paint quite a picture.
This guy is like, if you've seen the Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch, he is like Sherlock Holmes in his mind palace, right?
Yes.
But he may also go to Burning Man.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've not found a doctor in my world who spends as much time, is as detailed in his blood work, tells you exactly what you're missing, right? So a lot of these vitamins we're going to share is based on the fact that you or I have blood work that shows, oh, you're deficient in some of these areas. And he's made recommendations. And then there's other things I've added to my mix, you know, based on what I feel for myself.
Well, and in a full disclosure, slightly icky moment,
yeah,
this isn't just blood work. I have had to donate a plethora of bodily fluids and functions in my continuing quest for health and wellness, because I had half of my thyroid removed, as I mentioned, a little over a year ago. And at that point, I was pretty healthy. I was pretty physically fit. Nobody's going to stop me on the street and like ask me about my, you know, abs or my fitness regimen. But like I was cooking along, feeling good, relatively healthy, relatively fit. I had strength. I had stamina, like could keep up with my kids, could run around the park.
You're 6 feet tall. You could like fight off a couple of robbers if you had to.
A couple bears. I was fine. But then I had very large lump on my thyroid, and they didn't feel like they had done a biopsy. They didn't feel like they could safely say that it wasn't cancerous because it was so large. So even though they had taken a biopsy out of it, my doctor still wanted to have it removed. They said, no problem, take it out. You'll be on thyroid medication. No big deal. People do it all the time. I have half my thyroid removed, and my health absolutely tanked. I had no energy. I had a tremendous amount of difficulty focusing. I had digestive issues. I had so many issues with my menstrual cycle. I had so many issues, and I had understood from not only my doctor but people who have thyroid issues in my family. It takes a little while to tweak the dials on the thyroid medication. You're going to have to do blood tests every few months, and you know they'll figure out exactly how much of the synthetic thyroid hormone you're going to need, and then eventually you'll be okay. And so I was kind of ready for that, but after I did 2 rounds of blood tests where the doctor called me back and said, nope, you're great. And I thought, I feel absolutely terrible. Like, and because I had been in decent, healthy adult shape when I had my thyroid out, I knew that what I was seeking was not unreasonable. I knew where I had been and I knew what had changed. And so this wasn't going to work for me. So that's when I finally relented and went to your doctor and had so many tests taken.
So much blood taken.
So much blood, so much spit, so many other fluids that no one needs to know about. Shipped FedEx.
That gets sent off in a FedEx package.
So all that is to say, like, this is not, we gave the disclaimer at the beginning of the podcast. We're not doctors. We're not trying to be a doctor or pretend, but we also are raising our hand and admitting we've worked with a really fantastic doctor that has done a lot of legitimate testing to help guide us to the things that we're using for our health.
Yes. Okay, so I actually have pulled out my pile of vitamins. Do you want to just kind of bounce back and forth? I'm going to start with one, and then I'll let you tell us one that you're taking.
Yeah, tell me what you got.
All right. So the one I'm going to start with, this comes from our Dr. Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I always test low on iron, and it gets way worse for me in the wintertime where I can actually feel how tired it makes me. It makes my legs ache, all of that stuff. I had taken iron pills before that didn't absorb that great. So what he recommended to me was this. It's by Pure Encapsulations. It's called Optiferin C. Now it has like a really good balance of like the iron and ferritin that you need, as well as vitamin C. It will, in the course of a day or two, like restore me. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so this absorbs really well. It shows up on my blood work. One thing about this, it's like $10 on Amazon. As a whole, this doctor we keep talking about, he loves the Pure Encapsulations brand. And it's not that expensive. But April, who's on our team, she also runs the Vagina blog.
Mm-hmm.
And when she just had her last baby, Fox, which was probably 3 years ago.
He's 2.
Is he 2? I was talking to her one day, and this was shortly after, and she said, I just can't get my iron up. I've tried so many things. You know, my doctor has given me lots of ideas. Nothing's working. I said, dude, go order this right now and see what happens. And boom, like it fixed her up in no time. So that is like a go-to. I take this all the time, and I recommend that one to anybody. So that is my first gift.
I'm on the same one. Same type of thing. Blood test. He was really careful to say, you are not anemic. So don't flip out, but you are low on iron. And so he prescribed for me to take it twice a day. And that made the biggest difference in terms of just energy. And I felt amazing. And I take the same product. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So another one that I tested low for vitamin D. I think a lot of people do, especially in Utah, because we take a whole winter away from the sunshine. One of the things I took away from his advice on that was to take a liquid vitamin D. Because if you're taking it in pill form, it is not likely absorbing well for you. So I had done the same thing. I'd been taking vitamin D in pill form before, and my D numbers were never moving on my blood work. But when I switched to liquid, which there's a Pure Encapsulations liquid, the kind I have right now was just, I got it from like Sprouts. It's like Solgar or something. I can't even read it, but it's liquid and it does the job. It's orange flavored and fantastic. So I take vitamin D every day.
I also take vitamin D. I had the same sad Utah winter, low vitamin D. So I mean, apparently, of course, you and I are on half the same crap.
I know this may be very uninteresting. I'll get to a point where we differentiate, I'm sure. Omegas. I'm sure you're taking omegas.
I do.
I think the things I've learned about that is that you should take the kind that have to stay in the fridge. If it's on the shelf, it's going bad and it's probably nasty for you.
So do you drink the liquid, or how do you take your omega? I want to see how hardcore you are.
I have drank the liquid, and it shouldn't taste. If it tastes bad, that's a sign that your omegas have gone nasty. So it shouldn't taste horribly fishy. And then I also have the pill form, but Nordic Naturals is, I think, one of the brands that he recommends most there. So I kind of stick to that. And I always make sure I buy something that has to stay in the fridge.
Same. Although I do buy a Nordic Naturals, like gel pill. What's the right? Yeah. Liquid cap.
Liquid gel.
For traveling. Liquid gel. Thank you. If I'm traveling, because it's obviously not convenient to throw a big bottle of fish oil into, your carry-on luggage if you're going out of town, or if you're going to have to like be on the go.
Yes. Okay. So the next thing, now this is not something I take every day, but every so often. Like, so if I feel like I'm having a digestive issue, or maybe like I'm getting sick, or if I have like a little bit of heartburn or something, I will take an apple cider vinegar pill. And this one is from Natural Factors. And I'll just take one or two. And my kids, they'll take one or two as needed. I like throwing that in. It settles your tummy pretty quick, I find. Now, Erin, one time I recommended to you that you should take some apple cider vinegar. What happens then?
Well, I think you had guided me over the phone or via text, like, hey, take a shot of apple cider vinegar. If you've never done it, put it in a glass of water and drink it. And at the time, I think the ailment you were trying to help me address was severe constipation. And I was in a mode where I was like,
apologize. I didn't mean for you to disclose that part, but let's just talk about it.
I feel like I'm probably not the only person on planet Earth that has like struggled with these things.
We did a whole campaign once about constipation on todaysmama.com. I'll throw those links in there too. We've got some really great solutions for any of you out there that may be struggling.
We have some really great solutions. But I was in such a place of discomfort and misery and wanting a solution that I figured, well, if one shot of apple cider vinegar is recommended, then why not, take like 3 or 4? And I'm here to tell you, friends, that is not going to do you any favors.
It was a bad idea.
I told Rachel what I had done. Yeah, it was a bad idea. I'm pretty sure my stomach lining and my esophagus lining has grown back at this point, but that was a lot. It was a lot of vinegar to throw down when I was not used to using apple cider vinegar. But I was not aware you could get it in pill form.
Yeah.
This is new information for
okay.
me. Thanks you've been holding out on me.
And that's also not that expensive. It's natural factors, apple cider vinegar. I think you can get it on Amazon or like a Sprouts or Whole Foods.
Okay.
All right. The next one on my list, I think we'll probably twin on this too, is Enzyme Medica's Digest Gold.
No, what is this magical thing? I do not take this.
So this is when I want to say yes to the foods that I would like to eat. But I don't want to be in a whole lot of pain afterwards. And so if I'm going to eat my grandmother's rolls at Christmas time, or if, I went all in on something at dinner that I know may make me feel junky later, I'll just pop 1 or 2 Digest Golds to help me deal with the gluten and just, make sure everything digests just a little better. I don't take this every day. I take this once in a while when I just feel like, oh, Rachel, what have you done?
Yeah.
Now, this is something that my husband takes every day, and this is the reason I found it. So we've talked before on the show and other places how he got in a big car accident in 2010, and the seatbelt basically cut him in half. So he broke his back, but they also had to take out a couple feet of his intestines, which is no fun. And so digestion has continued to be an issue for him over the years. And this is one of the things that also helps him. And so that's how I found it. They make certain varieties for like gluten intolerance or dairy. Again, I'm not saying go all in and eat all your glutens and dairies every day, even though it's like killing you softly. Just when you feel like, it's time to push all your chips in. That's when you take one of these.
Yeah. When it's Thanksgiving and you just really want that pie, or for me, I'm going to get a handful of these for when I go to Michigan, and I just really have to have Ambassador pizza.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You're listening to the Today's Mama podcast with your host, Rachael Hersher. We'll be back right after this.
If you're enjoying this topic today, might I recommend a few others from the archives? Check out episode 11 with Melissa Hartwig, founder of the original Whole30 and best-selling author. We talk all about motherhood, church, and of course, Whole30. You can also check out our 2-part interview with Stacia Savasic. It's episodes 28 and 29 on our amazing bodies and our inherent ability to resent them. Last but not least, be sure to listen to one of our recent interviews, episode 31, with Andrew Taylor, all about wilderness therapy and how to help your kids avoid it. All those links will be in the show notes. I think that should keep you busy for a while. You can find those links and more at todaysmama.com/podcast.
And now back to the Today's Mama podcast with your host, Rachael Hersher.
What have you got to match my Digest Gold with?
I don't have anything to match your Digest Gold.
Or just next on your list.
Been holding out. So I take one of the things that our doctor recommended, because as mentioned, I do have some pretty serious digestive issues. my digestion likes to just completely, it's where all my feelings are. It's where all my, like, if I'm feeling a little bit anxious or if I'm struggling, like that gets really, really disruptive. And I've mentioned before when I've been on the podcast that I've been divorced for about a year, and there's a lot of adjusting that happens. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of emotions and feelings that come with that whole process. And those live in my belly big time. That is my biggest sort of emotional little holding pattern. And so it's been really important for me to try to figure that out. That's why nutrition has been really important. But our doctor recommended taking magnesium. And so I also take the Pure Encapsulations magnesium every day. I take 3 of those. And ever since I did that, everything is smooth sailing for me and functions the way it's supposed to. And yes, sometimes I still get a sad tummy or an anxious tummy, but it's much more manageable now because it was my digestion was I felt like a full-time job. And so taking magnesium every day has made a huge difference in just kind of regulating how everything, it just basically tells your body like, hey, everybody do your job. And that's what it's been doing.
Get back to work.
Yeah, get back to work. You have one job, just do it. And it does it. So that works really well for me.
I think my feelings live in my lungs.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
So like I'm having my feelings, honestly, like I just got a starfish on my bed or on the ground and just like get big and like lay my lungs out.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Yeah. Mine's all in my digestive system. So if you're like me and you have an anxious tummy, magnesium has worked really well. I also take Q Vitalize Women for energy and hormone balance and kind of stress response balance. I'm going to mess up this word, but it's an adaptogenic herb kind of supplement, which means it's a lot of sort of those natural herbs and medicinal plants that are intended to kind of give you good sustained energy. One of the things, I'm a big coffee drinker and I have struggled to quit. Rachel has known that I have like thrown my coffee pot away. Like
and I laughed. She's like, "Oh, I put it up in the garage." I'm like, "Yeah, did you?
Yeah, did you?" Text me when you climb on the ladder and get it back down in 4 days.
Yeah.
But coffee is sort of my one holdout right now because I've had to give up so many things nutritionally that I did legitimately enjoy. That caffeine is in the form of coffee is my one holdout. But I've tried to limit it again to help my digestive issues, to help my anxious tummy issues. What Q Vitalize does is, in addition to sort of just being that good hormone balance, it's also really fantastic for sustained energy, meaning you don't get those crazy like bolts of energy. You know how sometimes like if you drink an energy drink or you take a caffeine pill or, do something insane, like take a 5-hour energy, which I've never done because that's a little more hardcore than I can roll with. You get those jitters, you get that really high like spike of energy, but then you crash really hard. This is just sustained, natural, kind of bright-eyed energy. Like you don't feel it. You don't feel like, oh, my stomach must have just hit the second round of the slow release energy and now I've like got this jolt. It's just really good and you're alert and it's sustained. The one thing about that is there's an AM and PM packet. I have found that I don't always necessarily need the PM packet, but if I do, I have to make sure to take it before about 2 p.m. because I don't want it to keep me up. I don't want it to disrupt my natural sleeping patterns. So that's one that I really, really like.
Yes, that's a super good one. And I've taken that before. I just got out of the habit of that one.
Yeah.
But speaking of some of those Q Sciences products, I have a few here too. Now, and speaking of caffeine, so I've never been a soda drinker. I'm just not a drink person. I'm like water, lemonade is even a little much for me, right? Like just a lightweight. I don't drink coffee, but I did discover the power of caffeine in the last year. And what a gift that is.
Welcome to the dark side.
I had no idea what was going on.
There are days where I wake up and I'm excited to drink my coffee. Like I go to bed at night and I'm like, I can't wait to wake up and have coffee.
Oh my goodness. So I found these. They're called Q Rev Sport. And it's a dietary supplement, maybe. I think I've heard it called pre-workout before. It's just what I call pure energy.
Yeah.
It's got chia seeds in it. I'm trying to look at the ingredients just right now. It has like a natural caffeine. Let's see. natural sources of caffeine, chia seed oil, amino acids, and other supportive nutrients that fuel all day healthy energy. So this stuff, it comes in those drink packets. I can only do a third or a fourth of a packet at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
'Cause you are a
it's
lightweight.
amazing though.
Yeah.
I mean, if I am dragging towards the end of the day and I need to wake up and I need to get stuff done, I'll mix a little of this goodness up and it just turns the brain right back on. As a matter of fact, I keep a couple packets in my car. In the event that ever it's like late at night and I'm driving and I'm too tired, I would seriously just mix this up and I'd be good to go, you know?
I can always tell when you've had this.
Can you?
Uh-huh. Because I get a lot of emails and or text messages, or I've been in meetings with you when I've, we've had, because we'll do like in-person day-long meetings every so often. And it's usually after lunch that I see you mix this up. And I'm just like, oh, we're in for it now, because that's going to hit her brain. And then we're all going to be here for like 6 more hours because she's going to be ready to roll.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
She's going to be brilliant.
It's like powering up a little toy that's winding down.
Yeah. It's kind of magical.
Yeah.
Now, someone else who loves is Allison from How Does She, who also has this like business program called the Because I Can Clan. She says that this drink is how she has accomplished her businesses in the last 2 years. Literally is like, this is why. She has a good little hack. She mixes it with pure lemon, which is like another little drink packet, and then she throws a strawberry in it.
Wow.
And my flavor that I like is grape key lime Ricky. Anyway, it turns it into a really enjoyable beverage.
Wow.
That also makes you brilliant.
Makes you brilliant. And so
Yeah.
you can do all the things.
So you can do all the things, but it doesn't have a like caffeine crash that goes with it. And if you took it every day for a month and then stopped, it's not like you're addicted and going to have any headaches. I mean, I know I've taken it a lot.
Yeah.
But I also can go days and days and be like, oh, I haven't had any, and I don't feel any different.
Which is great, because as a coffee drinker who cannot go a day without getting a blinding headache, and that's been part of my coffee struggle, is I know I should stop, or I know I should peel back, and I know it's not the greatest thing for me, but stopping is like signing up for 2 days worth of a head splitting.
Yeah, I've never had a caffeine headache. All right, what else is on your list?
I take a probiotic before bed every night. You were the one that and I don't even know that this is necessarily based in any sort of science. I think you just told me and I was like, makes sense to me. I'm going to do that. Taking it before bed.
And yes, there's no science based in my recommendation, aside that I noticed that it worked better for me and I felt better doing it that way.
And I've had the same experience. A little bit of the challenge for you and I and our friend Bree, who sent us a picture of her countertop, I think yesterday morning, with all her vitamins on it. There's a lot of vitamins that I take every morning. And then I take a second round after lunch. And I think a probiotic is invaluable. I think probiotics make really big differences. I've seen the difference since I've started taking one in terms of immunity, and also I've mentioned my digestion issues. It's been really important to take a probiotic. I like the idea of doing it at night before bed, where I haven't taken anything else. Like, it doesn't have to compete. It's just...
Yeah, I just imagine it going in and like cleaning house and having all night to sit in there, and yeah.
Yep. So I do
now
that.
I'm on the search for a new probiotic right now, because I used to take this one called Friendly Force that I loved, and then I think the guy like died and it stopped.
I know, and then you got me hooked on it, and now I can't find it either.
Yeah.
So if
I need a new brand.
there's a recommendation, we're open for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have one that I absolutely love right now. I'm doing and I just kind of keep switching stuff out. So
yeah. And then the other thing that I've alluded to, but an important part of my daily regimen, is my thyroid medication. And so I take 2 different thyroid medications every single day.
I don't have any prescriptions right now.
Good.
My vitamin lineup yesterday looked like an Excedrin migraine because I woke up with a horrible headache. So we are never going to tell you, yeah, you don't need your medication. Weird. No, always you take that medication.
Yep.
Unless, of course, you do your blood work and you find out all the things and you talk to a doctor and you're able to take some other approaches if that's what you're looking for. I also believe there's lots of solutions out there for lots of things. So,
yeah,
but not for thyroid medication.
And to mention, like, this doctor that has helped us figure out what supplements and vitamins we need to be taking is the same doctor that was the one that identified that I needed a secondary thyroid prescription. And so that's why I think both have really loved him, because he's going to make recommendations, things like, hey, take more iron and take more vitamin D, but also you need to be on, here's a prescription that you need to be on. And so it feels really well balanced. And Rachel and I are on a lot of the same things because we do have some things that are similar about our health issues, but then some things like my thyroid and Hashimoto's that are, way different. So,
yeah. So another one we take at my house, and I try to make everybody take it, is called Q Max.
mm-hmm.
And it's a micronutrient that was created to help really with like mood and mental health stability, anxiety, stuff like that, but also just having your brain work the way you want it to. And I found this like years and years ago when my sister took it, and it made a big difference for her. But what I notice, I just think it's a good one to have on board because it's all the micronutrients, minerals, amino acids that you're not getting as much of in your food. And then this one, the B vitamins are, what's it called? Methylated.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem absorbing B vitamins, this is designed for, especially for the people who have the MTHFR. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how we say it?
I think so.
Gene?
Mm-hmm.
It always makes me want to say swear when I say that abbreviation. But here's what I noticed. For me, it keeps my brain pretty steady. But for like, I have a daughter who struggles a little bit more with anxiety. And it's funny because at night, I can hear her talk in her sleep, and she talks 1,000 miles a minute. Like I can't even understand what she's saying.
Oh, wow.
And to me, that's a perfect illustration of really how her brain works. It's just going 1,000 miles a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If she's taking these vitamins, she doesn't talk like that in her sleep. It's so interesting. If she's taking her vitamins consistently, not only does she sleep better, but if she talks in her sleep, you can understand it. I think it just levels things out for her. So she doesn't have a severe case of anxiety, right? And I'd maybe self-diagnose her with a touch of ADD even.
Mm-hmm.
Her grades are better when she takes this. And she'll admit to me, Mom, when I'm taking my vitamins, I notice I can like stay still in class and pay a whole lot better attention. And I see it in my grades. And she's in 9th grade. So everybody at our house takes that Q Max micronutrient because I think it's good.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else on your lineup?
No, that is all.
Okay, I have one last thing to share because it was so funny. Last night, my son came home from soccer practice and one of his buddies came with him. They're sophomores in high school. They're on the JV soccer team. And so they'd had a big workout that day and they were both saying that they were sore. And his friend seriously seized up on the floor of my kitchen with the worst cramps through his whole body. Like he was laying on the ground, couldn't straighten his legs. It was not stopping. He's like, oh my gosh, this has never happened to me. He was in so much pain. I felt so bad for him. My husband was home and he's a big runner. And he's like, oh, hold on. And he goes and pulls out this from his closet of concoctions because he has a whole other closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he pulls out this thing called Endurolites Extreme. It's called Supreme Electrolyte Support. It's by Hammer Nutrition. He goes and pulls this out. Makes the kid take this. The kid doesn't want to take it because he doesn't want to swallow the pills. And we're like, swallow the pills, bro. Anyway, so he takes it and within minutes, you just watch his body start to relax. And then he just like stands up and is like, oh my gosh, it's all gone. So that was like incredible. So if you're a runner or an athlete or you've got kids that are, this seemed like a pretty handy thing to have on tap. It worked really well.
Awesome.
All right. Those are the top picks from my vitamin cabinet. Anything else you want to add before we move on to our next segment?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think we've covered, that was a deep dive into all the vitamins.
I know. If you're still listening, thank you.
Yeah.
That might have been really boring, or hopefully you heard something like that you were like, oh man, I need to try that, or maybe that'd work for me. And again, you can find all the links and lists in the show notes. We want to hear from you. Head on over to the show notes and leave us a comment. Share your favorite recipes with us. Tell us what vitamins and supplements you love. Just visit todaysmama.com/podcasts. Click on this episode and leave us a note.
You've been listening to the Today's Mama podcast with Rachael Hersher. To find out more, go to todaysmama.com. That's todaysmama.com. Today's Mama, connecting moms and families with the best of today.